So let's talk about how to crowdfund anything. And basically, when we start talking about the crowdfunding opportunity, we're not looking at this solely as a business opportunity. We're not looking at this as a way to get in, make a few bucks, and then get right out of it. That's not really the idea behind crowdfunding, and that's whether or not you're really looking to fund your idea, looking to help somebody to fund their idea. This can really be not just a viable way of being able to create a path for yourself. It can be a viable way of being able to create something that's going to be long-lasting, that will be almost a legacy kind of project. It can be, depending on the route that you take, it can be the last thing that you decide to sink your teeth into. It can be the thing that you look to build. It can be a way of helping somebody to build something. And when you understand it, this really is going to be a way for smaller investors, smaller business owners to get involved in the building process. And there's never been another opportunity like this. So the crowdfunding opportunity is not a business opportunity. It's a long-term, it's been made permanent by the Jobs Act of 2013. I don't really have time to fully explain that here in this course. It's beyond the scope of this, but and this is something that you want to take a little while and really research and understand the Jobs Act. And I think it may even be the Jobs Act of 2014. And basically what it means is now we can now use crowdfunding in order to fund a business. Before, if you were going to do crowdfunding before that bill became law, you would have to then use crowdfunding in order to give people stuff, benefits. And that's why sometimes if you went to KickStarter, you'd get a nice hat. You'd get let's say a plaque, or you'd get something symbolic, and you'd get something indicating that you were there to support them while they were building it up, and you'd pay a certain amount, and then they give it to you. And then the prizes got to be a little more sophisticated. Sometimes you could even buy the actual item. You'd overpay for it a little bit, but what you'd be doing is you'd be giving them a little more. You'd be giving it to them in advance. They would be giving you some extra benefits, and then you'd get the item when they started manufacturing it. But see, they didn't have the capacity to start manufacturing, so you're actually helping them to fund their operations before they have to go and build something, right? But understand the Jobs Act of 2013, you'll understand what the crowdfunding opportunity really is. Basically, crowdfunding is no longer just a way to get cool stuff in advance of a product release, right? We can now use crowdfunding as a way for us to be able to invest in projects we believe in. So some people are going to use crowdfunding as a way of finding cool things to invest in. Right? Maybe you might be let's say the kind of investor, maybe you've always done mutual funds. Maybe you've always done stocks and bonds here and there, and you had to put your money into those things because that was the only way that you can invest. Well, what crowdfunding has now done, right, with the changing of the laws is, and again, please make sure that you understand what the Job Act is. Make sure you understand what the investing law is in. In fact, what I will do is in this session, I will put at the end some resources for you to actually read about what the laws will allow you to do. It allows you to invest without being what's called an accredited investor, right? And so basically you can invest in projects that you were not allowed to invest in before, and these can be smaller companies. And this is really a great opportunity, again, for people who want to be a different kind of investor. And what's going to happen now is crowdfunding is now going to bring together people who make stuff, not your typical big company. Right? Not your typical middle marketing company, not your typical factory that you see there on the street. We're going to be able to now bring together people who manufacture stuff in a non-traditional way. You're going to now be able to bring together those people with non-traditional investors, people like the people that I just talked about, folks who want to invest in something, but they don't want to invest in stocks and bonds. They don't want to put all their money in the mutual funds. They want to be able to see the investor. They want to be able to see the manufacturer. They want to be able to see the company. They want to be able to see what they're producing. And so they're going to now be able to come together into a marketplace and put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, to be able to put their money into those companies, those people, and those ideas that they're able to see and believe in. So again, it is an opportunity like none other. And all of these are going to come together with non-traditional businesses. And this is why it's really important for us, especially as information marketers, to understand what crowdfunding is, what the opportunity is, and again, please make sure that you read about the Jobs Act. And I think it's the Jobs Act in 2013 or 14, so that you understand what the change really has been. And basically, here's what's happening, right? Basically now, smaller companies now have access to capital from smaller investors. This is huge, right? This is major. Now, instead of having to wait or go get a loan or an angel investor, you now have access to small dollar amounts from people in order to fund your company, right? And again, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, you don't have to be the person with the idea. You don't have to be the person with the company. People like you and I who are information marketers, this is a great opportunity for us to insert ourselves into the process. Now, and it's a great opportunity for those. This is what I'm talking about. People that learn markets, people that educate investors, inventors, right? So in other words, you're educating people who have the ideas, right? Can you be the kind of person who educate the people who have the ideas? Can you be the person who educates the person who runs the business? Can you be the person who educates the investor? Basically, as information marketers, we can be the people that bring these parties together. And in fact, that is what's happening right now. That means that you and I must understand and learn the rules and the laws. We have to understand them, right? In addition to that, we have to know how this concept applies to internet marketing. That's really what we're going to be talking about here in this session. Now, crowdfunding is uniquely internet-based, right? The concept isn't, but the practice, right, is uniquely internet-based. It probably could not have happened in any other time because crowdfunding really depends on viral traffic and internet activity. Right? In other words, what's happening is consumers and business-minded internet users, they're already predisposed to spending money on information. Right? You and I, we know that there are people who spend money now on things that they buy from Kindle. They spend money now on ebooks. They spend money now on information. And so because of that, people are already predisposed to going to the internet, putting in their credit card number in order to get things that don't necessarily give them any tangible benefit, right away. And so because of that, this time that we live in right now is going to be a time when crowdfunding could happen. More than likely, before the internet was there, you probably could not have pulled off anything that even looks like a crowdfunding campaign, even if the laws allowed you to do so. People now, right? Again, consumers and business-minded internet users, they're already predisposed to spend on items that they see as useful but not readily available elsewhere. So in other words, part of the appeal of seeing something that's being crowdfunded is we see something that's new, something that's fantastic, something that, yeah, I wish I'd have thought of that, or yes, I have always wanted one of those, but I can't go and get it from any place. I want to see this person make them so I can have it. Right? And so basically people are predisposed to want to buy those things. They're predisposed to want to fund those things. If you're here, right, if you're here, just, and you can put the number 1 in the question box if you've seen at least one thing in the last 5 years that's been like that. You've seen, maybe it's been a KickStarter campaign, but you've seen something that you thought, wow, I'm glad somebody finally made one of those because I want one. Yeah, I mean, all of us have had that feeling. And now what's happening is we're seeing it, and people are able to do it because of crowdfunding. Basically, crowdfunding allows you to do this. You need large numbers of people with smaller dollar amounts to either pre-purchase or pre-invest, right? So again, something that probably could not have happened before the internet. You need to be able to get your story in front of people willing to take action. And these are going to be people that you may have never met, right? So again, the internet allows you to do that in a way that no other medium would allow you to bring together. Again, television would allow somebody to meet you, wouldn't allow you to have a conversation with that person. You're able to get people to believe what they're seeing and reading enough to take action, right? Again, this is just the idea of they're seeing what they're seeing it on the internet. They're ready to take some action right away. Now, here's what, again, this is important, and I want to emphasize this. This does not mean that crowdfunding can or should be a business opportunity in traditional sense. So in other words, we're not looking, and we shouldn't be looking to try to score on this, right? This is not going to be like an information product. We launch a product. We're going to be in this 3 or 4 months, and we're going to try to get a quick score, take some cash, and then run away from the process. Crowdfunding is now a way of being able to fund real ideas, and it's a way of being able to invest in real things that people want to do. Now, here is the thing, and here's why this is important to us as information marketers. Once you and I know, and we know, and this is something that we do every day, right? This is what we know how to do. Once you know how to build an audience in a particular niche, you can participate in the process, because that's all that a crowdfunding campaign is. It's bringing together an audience that's going to be interested in something in particular. And when you can bring together an audience, you have the core functionality, you have the core skills that are necessary to bring together people in a way that's going to be meaningful, and you can now do that in a particular marketplace. Now, crowdfunding is more than Kickstarter and GoFundMe. Right now, a number of us, we probably have seen GoFundMe campaigns, and we kind of feel like, well, man, if that's what crowdfunding is, I don't know if I want to be part of that, right? I don't know if I necessarily want to do that for my business. And crowdfunding is so much more than Kickstarter and GoFundMe. It's so much more than just getting the cool stuff and just getting people over their most immediate need. I mean, very legitimate things, but crowdfunding is now more than that. It's basically getting people to capitalize your idea if you're an inventor, right, without having to mass market a finished product. So in other words, think about this. Let's say that you had an idea, and you had an idea to make a new kind of blender, and you're able to have that blender prototyped, but you do not have the money to go build a factory in order to mass manufacture this product in order to bring it and sell it through a website. You don't even have enough, let's say, to make, 100 of them. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to have to get the capital before you do the actual building. And here's the real benefit of that, right? You and I get to test a market idea before we invest our life savings, before we invest thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars into something, into facilities and factories and people. We get to see if an idea is really viable. Does the market want it? And basically, we're getting people to capitalize our idea without having to mass market this finished product. Now, and let me say what I mean by capitalize, right? Because I don't want to just use that word just and kind of throw that term out there. Capitalize, we mean basically, right? People are giving you money up front. Right? People are taking their credit card out, they're taking their PayPal account out, they're giving you money, and they're not getting anything immediately. Right? Typically, there's always immediate exchange. So in other words, if I give you money, I'm at minimum going to get an information product. If I give you money, I'm going to get something shipped to me in 3 or 4 days. If I give you money, I'm going to get a service from you almost immediately. Crowdfunding is different. Crowdfunding means I give you money, and you're going to promise to do something for me, and you're going to promise to do something for me probably not even immediately, but when you're able to put all the funding together first, and then you're able to then deliver on what you promised. This is a different concept. So again, this is what we mean by capitalizing in this sense. So it is a different process. When the people are giving you money, right, they're funding you based on what you have already proven to them and presented to them on a platform. So in other words, the only thing that makes me give you this money is that you've shown me something, and somehow or another you are proving your case. Right? I looked at your landing page, I watched your video, I checked you out, and then I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you $300 even though I haven't gotten anything yet, even though I'm probably not going to get anything tomorrow, even though there's a risk that I may not get anything anyway. I'm going to give it to you based on what you have proven and presented. Again, this is a totally different model, and we have to be able to understand that. And again, as information marketers, we are uniquely positioned to be able to help people to be able to do that. Now, these are going to be people who are willing to take a promise to get the finished product. So again, we don't get it. We get a promise. We get the benefit, right, as inventors, as company owners. We get the benefit, right? So if you're the person who's initiating the campaign, we get the benefit of first not having to borrow money to start a company. We get the benefit of not having to borrow money in order to fund our idea. We get the benefit of not having to pay back loan capital while we're still building our company. And we also get the benefit of not having to have an investor. We get the benefit of not having to give up ownership. All we have given is a promise that when we make what it is that we've promised we'll make, that we're going to deliver on that promise, right? So in other words, we got the funding up front to make the product. However, we did not give up ownership, nor did we give up our future by having to repay loan capital. Now, if you understand that basic concept of what crowdfunding is and why it's more than KickStarter and GoFundMe, please put the number 2 in the question box. If you understand the basic concept, right? Because basically what's happening is we're now being financed by our customers and not by investors or borrowers. This is why this is so powerful. This is why this is so huge. And this is why us, right, in particular, those of us who understand the things that we know about bringing an audience together are going to be key in making these kinds of things happen. So why should you and I care about crowdfunding? Right? Why should you and I care as information marketers? Basically, we should care because you don't have to be an inventor to benefit as an entrepreneur from crowdfunding. Right? So in other words, we can be some of the people who arrange the campaigns. Right? So in other words, everybody who has the idea, everybody who understands the process, everybody who understands how they make and sell the thing, everybody who invents the process doesn't always have to be the person arranging the campaigns. In fact, more likely than not, the people that actually make it don't need to be the people arranging the campaigns. We can provide services to those people. What kinds of services? We can provide marketing services. In other words, we can tell them whether or not they're building a list correctly. Right? We can set up their autoresponders. We can set up and do writing for them, right? How are their websites looking? What is their copy looking like? What is their presentation like? So in other words, they're probably talking to people. They're probably doing webinars. They're probably educating people. What does that look like? Are they being effective? Do they have strategic marketing principles involved in their presentation? We can help them with those things. Videos. Do they know how to do explainer videos? Do they know, are they going through the 8 steps that you and I know to be strategic marketing? Again, these are all services or an example of services that people are going to need that you and I can provide. Now, we can actually be, if we, again, have the audience, we can find investors. In other words, we know the people in our audience. We know their interests. We know the things that they have gravitated toward. We know the products that they purchased. We know the things that they talk to us about. We can probably find the investors inside of our audience. We can find the investors inside of our niche. That's if we choose to take that role. We can probably also provide social media support. We can provide media and PR support. That's what we want to do. Again, there's so many opportunities. And if you think laterally about crowdfunding, you don't have to be the person necessarily with the idea. Right? If you understand this, you can be the person who who brings together the people who have the idea with the people who have the money. Now, and here's why that's important. Right? Because the most lucrative part of crowdfunding is after a successful campaign. Right, and I listened to an interview from Jay Abraham and Kevin Harrington. This is really important. This is really, really important. And a successful campaign, I mean, it's a good idea, right? It's not an experienced business plan, right? This is really, really important. So in other words, more often than not, more often than we hear, all we tend to hear is when a company is successful in getting their funding, their idea funded, right? What happens after that, though, is very important, because when there's no experience in these areas, that great idea can quickly become an idea that's going to take that company under. So in other words, typically you have people who have good ideas. You don't necessarily have people who have been successful in running a business. So they may not have success in the experience in marketing. They may not know how to do content marketing. We can't assume that they do. We can't assume they know how to do social media marketing. Again, they have the idea. They may not know how to do educational marketing and webinars and all those things. Again, they have the idea. In some cases, the successful participant doesn't know how to manage the process. So in other words, they may not know how to manage accounting and cash flow. They may not know how to manage human resources and hiring and firing. In other words, where can we, and here's the key, right? When you think about after a campaign is over, so they've gotten the funding, one of the things that you and I can think about is where we have the expertise in being able to provide services to people once their company is already funded, right? Again, so crowdfunding is one thing, but after they get the funds, after they get the money, after they have gotten some orders, after they've begun to deliver on the orders, where can we provide our expertise to help these companies, and how can we do it in a way that makes sense for them? Now, again, this is where it's going to help us to understand what's being funded in our niche. Now, this is vital, right? If you are involved in a niche, right, and every niche is different, you need to understand. You need to understand what's happening on KickStarter and Indiegogo and all the other crowdfunding sites. You need to understand what's being funded. So, in other words, if there was someone, if you were to have a podcast, right, if you were to have a blog, who would you interview? Right, based on your niche? Who are the people who have projects that are happening right now? Let's say they're in your local area. Let's say they're in your niche. Who would you have on there? What's happening with those companies? And again, this is a very basic, cursory way of starting the research process. So in other words, you have to understand what people are paying for, right? What are people funding, and how does that relate to the services that you already provide? And again, this is where it's going to benefit us to understand what happens after the funding process. So then what's going to happen in order for a successful campaign to happen, right? So what do they have to do, and how can we help them? So in other words, look, a successful crowdfunding campaign. So again, what have we already talked about? We said that a successful campaign should already be in motion once it starts. So in other words, after the campaign matters, and really now before the campaign matters. So the campaign itself, I wouldn't say it's academic. I wouldn't say it's inconsequential. But what I will say is that you have to already be in motion. So in other words, the following things have to be in place by the time you get rolling. Number one, you've already got to have websites and landing pages in place if you're going to do, if you're going to have a successful crowdfunding campaign. Now, again, I want you to think about where you can insert yourself. Right? If you're going to have a successful campaign, your social media already has to be in place. So again, where can you, as an information marketer, insert yourself in the process? If you are going to have a successful campaign, you have to already have video marketing in motion. So again, where can you, as an information marketer, insert yourself into the process? You should already have PR happening, right? You should already have these things in motion. So where can you, as an information marketer, where can you personally insert yourself into the process? Educational marketing and training. Again, these are things that, again, anyone who's funding a project, they're asking for money for their project. They cannot be putting these things in place by the time they get to Kickstarter. They have to already be in motion. They need to already be going. So where can you put yourself in this process? Where can you provide services? Where can you provide resources to people that need to be in motion already by the time they get to the platform? The person who's actually doing the actual project, right? They need social proof. So in other words, how do you research something so that they have proof of concept? So in other words, I'm not talking about, let's say that we go back to this blender, right? That we're creating this blender. But we need to have social proof that, let's say, things that are blended, let's say that they're healthier for people than things that are not blended. Who does the research for that? Who comes up with the science for that? Who comes up with all the studies for that? Who comes up with all of the information to tell people basically the concept works? Scientific proof concept. So again, key in copywriting is not just social proof, but it's proof, right? Proof of concept. You and I can, again, insert ourselves into the process. Social proof of your concept. So in other words, how do you gather testimonials? Right? How can you help people to gather testimonials? If they're not gathering testimonials by the time they get to the Kickstarter page, right, they're going to be handicapped in what they're able to do. Again, listen, social proof is huge, and it runs in the background of our mind, so that it almost has to be there. There has to be somebody who already said, "Hey, I tried this thing," even if all you're doing is showing in the video somebody who got the product already, and they've already used it and they've already experienced the benefit. However you do it, you have to have social proof. So how can you help people to get social proof? How can you help people and educate people who are trying to get the funding to get social proof into their campaigns before they hit the page? Now, again, it's going to be probably the most important element in the copywriting, right? For Kickstarter, for a crowdfunding campaign, right? Now, why do I say that? It's because people are going to be entrusting their money, right, to the person who's asking for it before they get an individual benefit. So they gotta have social proof. So more than any other element. So again, I mean, good headline, empathy, story, personal story, make it personal. All those things are good. They're necessary, but social proof, right, is going to be huge in this part of the process because again, people are not getting anything immediately. And because they're not getting anything immediately, we have to be able to prove to them that they need to be willing to part with their money with only the promise that they're going to get something. How are we going to be able to do that? Well, one of the ways we do that is with proof of concept, and social proof. Now, let's talk about this because probably the key to being able to establish that proof and social proof is going to be video marketing. But it's going to be the things you show in your video. Now, again, you may not be a video marketer. You may not be the kind of person. I'm not talking about you have to be a talking head, right? I'm not talking about they have to be a talking head. But what I'm saying is they have to have effective video. In fact, if you look at a good Kickstarter campaign, look at a good Indiegogo campaign, most of the marketing doesn't have the founders in it at all, right? It doesn't have people in the video, right? It's good video because it does a few things well. Number one, the video's got to show what the product or service does before and after. Right? It's got to show them what it does. It's got to show people how their lives would be different by trying the product or service. So in other words, the video has to show them that. It's got to be in the video. So again, it doesn't have to. It's not a matter of what you're going to tell them. Hey, your life's going to be different. You got to show them. This is why you and I are going to be positioned very well because again, we're going to do videos that demonstrate to people how their lives are going to be different. The video's got to show benefits in equal measure to the product or service features. So in other words, just because let's say this blender, it's got 5 speeds and it mashes ice, all that stuff is cool. But what we've got to do is we got to show the benefit of that. So what does it mean that this blender has 5 seeds? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to me that it can do, that it can crush ice or it can make all of these elaborate things? What does that mean to me? What is it going to do for my life? Right? We've got to be able to enumerate those things. We've got to be able to spell those things out, and the video should show those things. Right? The video has to show those things. They can't just talk about them. They have to show them. The video should show in as many as possible success stories in as many different angles as possible. So it's almost like you're doing an infomercial, right? In a good Kickstarter, a good crowdfunding campaign, that video is going to be vital, or that set of videos is going to almost be as powerful as an infomercial, a short one. Because again, we're trying to show in as many different angles, as many success stories as we can, the fact that people are having success. They're already in the goal position, right? They're already experiencing the benefit. They're already experiencing the bliss, if you will, of having what it is that the product is going to do for them. Now, here's a key to understanding this. You're ultimately going to get more credit for what you show than for what you say. So again, I mean, you can't avoid kind of talking about things in the video. You might not be able to avoid that, especially if you're kind of creating the video, just kind of information. But you're going to get more credit psychologically, right, from the person watching the video for the stuff you show them, right? So you've got to try to show them as much as you can instead of telling them. And you're going to get more credit for what the product will do for the viewer than for what it will do. So in other words, the fact that it's going to, again, have 5 speeds and it's going to do all these fancy things, that's not going to be ultimately as important as what it will do for the viewer, right? What it will do for the person considering the fund. So what is crowdfunding essentially, right? So basically, it really is your best business idea. You can have multiple things crowdfunded, but when you get started, if this is your very first project, you want to make sure it's your best idea. It's the one that is the most viable, that of all the ideas that you've ever wanted to have funded, right? You pick, and we all know what that idea is. It is the thing that you know is probably closest to what the market is wanting. It's something that maybe you know that people are asking for. It's something that you know that people that solves a real problem. Whatever that thing is, I mean, you don't have to necessarily, and that's the point of crowdfunding, is you don't have to have all the money. In fact, in some cases, you're not going to have any of the money. Right. So when you get started with crowdfunding, this is going to be your very best idea that you're going to have funded. You're going to have your very best prototype. Now, if you're offering some kind of service or you're offering some kind of creative product or service, you don't have to have a product. You're going to have, something like, in the case of a musician, you're going to have music. If your creative product is going to be a show, you're going to have an episode. But basically, this is going to be your very best prototype. So if you're manufacturing something, and most people who are doing crowdfunding, right, most people who go to get funding from the crowd, it's because they want to make something that they don't have the capacity to go out and get a factory to make. And whatever that thing is, you're going to have your very best prototype. Now, why do I have best prototype? Because this is really going to be the example you're going to be putting before people that you're going to want them to look at or listen to or see and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be willing to pull out $100 and give it to you so that I can see to it that you get this to the market, so either I can get it, other people can get it, right? So this is going to be your very best prototype. So it can't be something that it can't be something that you're working on. It has to be your very best completed product, right? It doesn't have to be all of the product, but it has to be a completed product. This is going to be your very best market pitch. So in other words, this is where if you've ever had an idea and you've ever been able to make sure that it matches the market, that it is exactly where people are and is giving people something that they want. In other words, it's giving them a benefit. It's not necessarily going to have all the cool things, but it's giving them something that gives them an intangible. Whatever that thing is, you got your very best market pitch for this. You know who your customer is, right? So in other words, you already have an idea of who's going to be buying this. And it can't be everybody in this case. This is going to be the case where you have really matched your product to the people that you know want it. You know the age, you know the demographic, you know who they are, you know what it is they want. And that's why you've created this, right? That's why you have brought this to market. That's why you're coming to the crowd and you're saying, hey, you know what? I know, for example, and I'm just going to throw this out here, I know that this is something that right now baby boomers are experiencing uniquely, and I'm going to serve them with this. And again, that is an example. I'm not saying that baby boomers are always going to be the case. They're the classic case, but you want to be able to make sure that when you come to the crowd, right, when you come to the crowd, whether or not it's your first idea or even if it is your second, you have an idea of who the customer is. This is going to be your best test. So in other words, why are we coming to the crowd for this? We're coming to the crowd for this because we don't want to spend the money on an idea and go through the process of putting everything into an idea only to find out the market does not want it. Right? Crowdfunding is we're going to put it before the crowd and we're going to see if they're willing to put out money for it before they get it. Right? We're going to see if they're going to be willing to pay for it before they actually get anything in their hands. That's why, right? That's why this is going to be your best test. Crowdfunding is a great way for you to take an idea, right? Make it into something tangible and put that tangible thing in front of the market so people can see it work, and then they'll either say, yes, I want it, I'm willing to pay for it to get it in advance, no, I don't want it, or, you know what, I can wait on this. And sometimes if people say, you know what, I can wait on it, that's an indication that your idea just does not excite people enough at this point that they want to get it, and that might not be something you want to bring to the marketplace as is. Right? It might be something you might have to tweak first. And that's why crowdfunding is research, right? Crowdfunding is research. We often talk about making sure that we test things in the marketplace and that we do research to find out if people really do want what it is we have. The crowdfunding process is that. So in other words, we're going to put this in front of the crowd and we're going to see how they react to it. We're going to make changes. We're going to see how they're going to react again. We're going to continue to refine the offer until we make it so that people really tell us what it is they really want, right? So this is really the research that really matters. If you've ever tried to do market research, you've ever tried to figure out, is somebody going to buy this thing if I make it? That is what the crowdfunding process is for. We're going to take something intangible, your idea, turn it into something tangible, and then put it in front of the market through the crowdfunding process. This is going to be your best investment of time and money. You're gonna spend the money prototyping something. You're gonna spend the time prototyping something, and it's going to be your best effort. Right? You're going to put everything you have into it, but you're not going to spend everything you have. You're going to spend what's necessary to put your best forward. Now, it might end up being everything you have to do that, but it's not going to be as much as if you said and you bet on an idea that you didn't know whether or not it's going to work. You're not going to be betting the house money. You're not going to be betting on whether or not this is going to happen in the future and taking everything and putting it into it only to find out, hey, you know what? The market's moved. They don't want it, right? They don't want any part to do with it. You are putting your money and your time and your effort into your very best prototype in a marketing campaign to put it in front of the market so that we can see what the market says. Right now, we're going to put together our very best incentive. And I'm going to talk about this because that's almost going to be the key to this process to getting funded. We're going to put our very best incentive forward. Incentives matter, right? They matter. In other words, sometimes some people will only take action because of the extras. And so we're going to put those extras in front of people because we want to know if they're going to be willing, if we've got to put extras in front of people to get them in order to move on something. Right? Our best incentive. We're going to be providing our very best social proof. So in other words, what we're doing in the prototyping process is we're getting this thing, hopefully, either beforehand or even during that process into somebody's hands so they can try it out. Right? And then we're going to be trying to get social proof. In other words, we're going to be trying to get testimonials. During this process, and hopefully before this, you've already been collecting testimonials. If you are in the process and you have your very best idea and you're getting into people's hands right now, right at this very moment, you and we must be collecting testimonials. Right? That's the important thing. That's what we're going to be using during during the crowdfunding process, definitely, but definitely even after the crowdfunding process. We're going to be using social proof. In other words, other people have tried it, they liked it, they benefited from it, and they're willing to say it, and they're willing to allow us to use their words. Right? So basically, we're going to use our very best social proof. So where are these platforms, right? Then these platforms, there are literally hundreds of thousands of crowdfunding platforms, right? So we don't have time to get through all of them. I'm going to go through a few of them, most of which you know already. And I would encourage you to just do a Google search for crowdfunding and then to put your niche in there, to put your specialty in there, to put what in there that you know how to produce, your niche and your market, so that you find out maybe there's a crowdfunding site specifically for your niche. Right, that might be your avenue. So in other words, let's take a look. Kickstarter is for products and services. We've seen a lot of projects on Kickstarter. Indiegogo is considered to be for micro ventures, right? So these are going to be products and services that people want to launch, but they're going to be on the smaller scale. Maybe they're going to be on the local level, and maybe they want to get funding to do something, a project of some kind. So Indiegogo is for micro ventures. Patreon is for content creators. You've probably seen that. People who have YouTube channels, people who have music, people who have podcasts. They ask you to support them through Patreon, and Patreon makes it easy. Now, as an information marketer, you already know how to set up a PayPal button, right? But not everybody knows how to do that, and Patreon makes it easy for them. GoFundMe, right? It's for personal live events, right? Or personal things that people want to have funding for. Maybe they're trying to do something, they're trying to do something in their own life, or they're trying to do something for other people. They put together a GoFundMe. You probably have seen those already. CrowdRise is for charitable donations. It's for nonprofits, right? And so they're trying to raise money for some kind of project, or they're trying to raise money for their ventures, whatever it is for the case of the year. So CrowdRise, Pledge of Music. Now, again, understand something. This is not a comprehensive list. I would encourage you to find the platform that might be most suitable. Find the platform that's going to be best suited for what it is you're trying to do. Right? Rocket Hub is going to be for creators, people who create things. Right now, it's not just entrepreneurs; it's for musicians, it's for inventors, it's for engineers, it's for everyone. So anyone who kind of creates something out of their brain. Now, I'm not talking about necessarily people who create content. Right? That's Patreon. But people who can take their brain and make something, right? Rocket Hub is for those people. Crowdfunders for early stage vendors. We're probably talking about a bigger platform here. We're talking about bigger funding. We're talking about larger ventures, larger companies, bigger products, and more expensive ones. Crowdfunder, early stage ventures. And one of the things, again, please research the platforms before you commit. Don't just assume that because Kickstarter is the oldest or it's because it's the biggest or it's because it's the best well-known, that it's right for you, right? Or it's right for your client. You need to research platforms. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to spend your whole life researching a platform. Doesn't mean you're going to find the perfect platform. Doesn't mean that you're going to spend 3, 4, 5 months finding the right platform. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about make sure you understand making what a short list is in terms of the platforms that you can use in order to bring your idea to the marketplace. Now, you've got to see which one's going to be right for you, obviously. And then this is what's probably going to be most important, right? When you get your short list, see which one has people and projects like yours that are funded. Right. So in other words, if you're a 30-year-old and everybody on this one platform, everybody's 60 and up, right? They're getting their ventures funded and you're kind of a little young on that side, then look, that might not be the place for you, or maybe the opposite. Right. So in other words, try to get a sense for who's on the platform, who's getting stuff funded. Right? Who's getting their ideas fully funded before they can go to market. And you want to try to start thinking about, well, maybe I'm a fit for this one, right? Maybe I'm going to be able to do this one because, again, all the people here are like me and they make sense to me. They resonate with me. So now, basically then, what's the first step? Now, the first step for any crowdfunding vendor is going to be research and pre-planning. Now, in this set, I've given you a link to an article by Tim Ferriss. This is the gentleman who wrote The 4-Hour Work Week and The 4-Day Body. You need to read that article. It's very important because this pre-planning process that I'm about to go through, I'm only scratching the surface. There's an article that has extensive resources and templates, but you'll need to make sure that you go to that article, and it is in the resources section of this session. Now, let's assume that you've decided on the platform, right? Let's assume that. Let's also assume that you determine your best idea, right? So you have it, right? You know what you're going to do. You know what you're going to seek funding for, and you know where you're going to do it. And so what you've got to do on your platform, right? And the Ferriss article will show you how to do this, but here, this is vital, right? You've got to figure out where projects like yours, this is important, are getting traffic. Right? So people who are coming to that project, where are they getting their traffic from? Because you are probably going to need to target those traffic sources at minimum. Right? Doesn't mean that's going to be the whole of your strategy, but at minimum, if they're already getting traffic from these sources, and they've got a project that's sort of like yours, you probably will benefit, at least starting by making sure that you are in touch with the people that send that traffic to those other projects, right? So you've got to first determine where projects like yours are getting their traffic. You can do that by researching from the actual platform. Then, now this might be the part where people are not going to feel as comfortable about doing this part as they might feel about other parts, because listen, this part is not going to be it's not going to be something you can do by sitting behind your computer. Right? It's not going to be something that you can do and be anonymous. It's not going to be something that you can do and just do it in the short term and then kind of give up on it if it doesn't work out the first time. You're going to have to target contacts in the media for your niche, right? Target contacts in the media for your niche. Now, for some people, that's going to be a little too much. I don't want to go that far. Hey, I just kind of want to do a project. But listen. What I want to encourage you at this point is that if you either work with someone or you fund the right project, your trajectory in terms of an information marketer is going to be much different, right? You're going to be in a different circle. You're not going to be looking from day to day. You're going to be looking from year to year. And I'm telling you that this is a very different way of looking at, at life as an information marketer. So again, when you start down this path, it's going to be a different way of looking at life. It's going to be a different way of looking at information marketing. But for some people, it's a better fit. Some people probably look at product launches and they think, you know what, I feel like I'm a square peg in a round hole. Now, if you've ever felt like that, you don't have to show me your answers, right? How many of you kind of feel like when you look at let's say the ClickBank or the Zaxa or the JVZoo or the Warrior Plus world, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get in there? How many of you feel like you're trying to fit in that world, but you're a square peg and you're trying to fit into a round hole? If you've ever felt like that, if that's how you have ever felt about this world that we are in, put the number 1 in the question box. Right, just so you know, I'm the only one that can see your answers, right? Some of you, right? Yeah. And so basically this is going to be different, right? It doesn't have to be that you have to do affiliate launches and you have to do product launches. That may not be necessarily your thing, right? And it doesn't have to be, but you can take all of the skills that you have, you can take all of the things that you're learning, you can take all of the things you've already learned, and you can apply it to this and be on a different trajectory. Right now, determine blog content tags in your niche, right? This is not going to be, again, it's not going to be straightforward, but you've got to figure out who's got the blogs, because those are going to be the people who you're going to want to target when you get ready to launch your crowdfunding campaign, right? You want to be written up by these people. You want to be interviewed by these people. You want to make sure that they know about you. Right? And you've got to find out who the people are that put people on their blog when there's something new and something cool that comes out, and they want to let their readers know about it. They want to let their listeners know about it. You have to find these people. It's really the same process that we've talked about in other cases where you're trying to find what I call the Dream 100. Right? You're trying to find out who are the people who have audiences already. You have to find those people, and these are going to be the internet marketers who are basically content creators. Right now, how they monetize doesn't really matter to you. What you want is you want to get your idea in front of their audience, right? So you've got to find out who these people are. And I would say that you want to make a list of 100, just like you would do the Dream 100 that we talked about before, that Russell Brunson talks about. Right? Try to make a list of 100, and again, try to break down your niche into a sub niche. Right, a really finely defined niche. And when you've really narrowed this down to a real finely defined niche, then try to find everybody within that niche. Right, try to find every blogger, every podcaster, but in that real sub niche. And you got to then start to develop relationships in social media, right, with those people. Now, again, see, this is going to be a little easier to do once you really finally define your niche. Once you really try to define your sub niche and you've got something cool for that sub niche, building relationships with these people, right, is going to be a lot easier, because you can then start to tune out all the other noise, right? Everything else that's going on social media, everything else that's happening, everything else that people are trying to sell you, everything else that people are trying to do, you can allow that stuff to kind of sink into the background, because your focus then is now going to be developing relationships with the people in your sub niche. Right? Because again, you're going to be bringing something to them, hopefully, that when they share it with their audience, they're going to look cool. Right? That's what you want to do. You want to share. You want them to have something that they're going to share with their audience that's going to be something super cool. Now, and then you've got to start the process of media content. Right? You've got to start contacting these people before you bring your crowdfunding projects to the market. And then, basically, what you're going to be doing, and I would say you're probably looking for a benchmark, right? I'm going to say, right, probably about 6 months, right, maybe even earlier, to the date where you're actually going to bring that crowdfunding campaign, you should start making contacts. And then you're going to give these people a date, right? You should, when you can give them safely a date that you like to do, maybe 6 months, right, in advance, this is when you need to start talking to people, right? Again, with a date in mind. Okay, so I talked about a product launch. So what's a product launch, right? So what is a product launch? A product launch is going to be a sideways sales letter, right? That's what we're talking about here. That's what we mean by doing a product launch, a sideways sales letter. So basically every element that's already in a product launch is going to be the same thing in your crowdfunding campaign. Number one, we've got to grab attention, right? We've got to make sure that we have a story of personal empathy. Now, again, remember, this is everything that you're seeing in a sales letter. We're going to lay that sales letter out, and we're going to do that over 6 months. This is what we're doing over the 6 months. We're going to be grabbing attention. Now, again, what can we do to grab attention? Again, that's going to be defined by your sub-niche. Then we're going to take our product or our story, and we're going to make it relate to people. So when I say personal empathy, and I'm going to explain this in a minute, we have to get people to resonate with our why. And again, I do not mean that in a network marketing kind of way, right? Not that's a bad thing. When I'm saying resonate with your why did you create this thing? Why did you come up with this podcast? Why did you write this song? Why do you do that? Right? And I'm going to explain this here in a minute because you want people to say, hey, you know what? I've had the very same emotion. Maybe this is somebody I can kind of get with, right? You connect with people that way. So again, over the course of you've got to get your story. You've got to make it personal. And again, I hate to bring things into the abstract, talking about things like story, but they are necessary for this project. You got to have a sense for what these people in your sub niche really want, right? What do they really want, right? If you talk to boomers, right? I'm just using them as an example today, not that they're on my mind or anything. What do they really want, right? At this point in their life, what do they really, really want? Now, even if what you're bringing to market is going to be something where you're bringing a tracker to them, right? That's not the thing they want. They have no desire for a tracker, right? Their desire is for something more basic to life. What is it they really value? You've got to be able to get in touch with that. Right, you've got to be able to get in touch with what that is. If it's a millennial, if it's an Xer, if it's a mid-career gentleman, whatever it is, you've got to be able to get in touch with what is it way deep down that they really want, because you've got to be able to connect the product to that as opposed to telling them about all the cool stuff the product does. And then we've got to create an offer, right? We've got to create an offer. And again, if you've ever seen a sales letter, you already know what this is. As an information marketer, you already have an advantage over most people in this process because you've seen an offer. Well, we know that we're not just selling a product, right? We've got to create an offer. We've got to have scarcity for the offer. We've got to have proof of concept, scientific proof. We have talked about that, and I like to talk about that because, again, it's an element that not enough of us put in our products or our product launches. The proof of concept is important because, again, it sets the brain at ease, right? Some people have an analytical brain. They just want to know if the concept works, and they're looking for a way to kind of separate all the things that they can kind of tune out some information. How do we deal with information overload? We tune out the stuff that we just think is just silly, doesn't going to work. And if there's no proof that the concept works, people are going to be able to kind of dismiss you, right? They have a reason to dismiss you. Social proof. So in other words, somebody else had it, somebody else used it, somebody else benefited by it, right? Social proof. Testimonials, right? That's what we're basically talking about. Again, during the sideways sales letter, during the 6-month period, this is what you're doing, right? You're getting all these things. You're bringing all these things. You are doing a product launch, except we're laying it out over time, right? So again, does everybody understand that? So if you understand what I mean, please put the number 2 in the question box. If you understand what I mean, we're doing a sales letter, except we're laying it out over time. We're not doing it all at one shot right now. And again, this is going to be an event, right? It's an event. So again, this is a period. This is a specific time, a call to action, because the crowdfunding does not last forever, right? It is a specific period of time. So we've got the lead in, right, which is the launch, and then we have the actual event, which is the crowdfunding campaign. And then we have the end. And so it's eventually going to end. And so we got to have this period where it's eventually going to end. So basically, part of the process is, right? And I've got a resource in here from Jay Abraham, and I really want you to listen to it because he's interviewing Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, and he's talking about the fact that most crowdfunding campaigns that they're probably not successful, they don't get the story right. Right? They don't get the story right. What do we mean by that? Good product launches and crowdfunded projects have a story, right? A good resource, right? If you have not read it, I mean, hopefully you all have read this. How many of you have read Start With Why by Simon Sinek? Right? Start With Why. If you haven't read it, read it because it's very important to the marketing process, because you want people, as I was saying before, you want people to resonate with your why. Right? So in other words, what we're trying to say is that maybe they've had a similar experience that you had before you decided to create this thing. Right? Maybe they had that similar experience. Or even if they didn't have that similar experience, they know people who have. And they can relate to it. They understand it when you tell it. Your reason for creating it, your reason for designing this, your reason for making it the way you did, your reason that you timed it for now, the reason that you're bringing it to market now. Right? What is your why? Why? Right? You've got to be able to explain that, and you've got to be able to explain it in very human, easy to understand terms. Right? Think along the lines of this. Right? And these are and when these things came to the market through crowdfunding, and they're now almost like a permanent part of our a part of our society now. But these short range mobile GPS trackers. Right, that you can stick on things. If you lose your keys, you can get your mobile device, you can find them. And there are a lot of people who are early adopters. You know why? It wasn't because it was just a great product and a great idea, right? It was really because people could resonate with the frustration of losing their mobile device. They could resonate with the frustration of losing their keys, right? We all of a sudden, right, in this part of our lives, right, that's why the timing was right for these things. We have all these really expensive things, and they're really small, and we can lose them, right? I mean, now, if you lose your mobile device, it's kind of a big deal. And so we can't afford to lose these things. And so we need these trackers, right? Or at least even if we don't feel we need them, we can resonate with why somebody would create them. And some people get them because they get the why, right? So if you understand what I mean by understanding the story, the why story, put the 3 in the question box. Okay. This is a vital part. And again, it's not hard and fast, but you do have to be able to resonate with people in terms of the why. And so basically what we have to be able to tell is we've got to be able to tell the most personal story that we can that will resonate with people, right? We've got to be able to resonate people on a really super personal level, right, with the story. Now, what's the position, right? Again, we're coming to the market. We're asking people for money ahead of time. So again, what's the position? We have to be clear about what our USP is, right, whatever it is. Right, even what we're talking about a we're talking about a book tour, right? Whatever it is, we got to be clear about the USP. Why is it that we need this? Right? What's needed by this? Another read when you start talking about positioning. I know that when we start talking about USP, I mean, they're almost kind of vague, but there is a great resource that will help you to really finally define what your USP is. It's called the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Al Rice and Jack Trout. And really and truly what this will help you to do is to define your USP before you come to market. What makes what you're doing unique, right? And basically there's something that's already out there. You've got this other stuff that's already out there. You're coming to the market and you're saying, hey, you know what? Mine is different. And you've got to have mine even if you have all the other ones. Why is that? Right? What is it that you've got in yours that other people don't have? Now, again, if you don't really have anything, you've got to go back to the drawing board. You've got to bring something to the market that people need or people want that's not already there. Right? Again, you're asking people for money up front. Right? So it can't just be that you're piling on. You can't be the opportunity is that, hey, there's room for one more person in the marketplace. That's not a good reason, and that's not a good reason for me to invest my money with you. Now, what would be the benefits versus other products that are already in market? We talked about that. Why are those benefits needed, wanted, or desired? Because some stuff, right, that we're getting crowdfunded, it's going to be musician, right? So it's not even a matter of always going to be what's needed, it's wanted. What is it that's really desired? Maybe you want to hear, a specific kind of jazz, right? You wish somebody would do an album and they do some research and they do all this stuff and somebody comes and they finally put together a project you like. right? So this is something you've been waiting to see. So yeah, you're willing to put a little money behind this project because yeah, you have always wanted to see this one specific kind of music done in this particular kind of way. Okay, be careful if your pitch has anything to do with price. So again, if your pitch, your crowdfunding pitch is going to be, hey, we're going to be the cheapest person in the marketplace. We're going to beat out Walmart and Amazon. Please be careful with that. Right? It's rare when you're going to be able to do that. Doesn't mean you're not going to be able to make your case, but it's rare you're going to be able to have success with a price strategy in these days. Right? So again, please do not assume that a cheaper price is the way you need to go about your pitch. And quite honestly, if you got these first two steps right, in other words, you have figured out why you've got to create this, and you're resonating with people on that level, and you've got a unique, super unique position in the marketplace, half your copy's already done, right? A lot of your job is really going to be done, right? Most of what you're going to do in the design process and bringing it to market, determining why you're bringing it there, a lot of what you're doing is going to be handled in those two steps. Now, what's going to be the offer? Now, this is very important because you and I have to think, again, crowdfunding is not necessarily selling a product, right? It's not just selling a product. You have to think in terms of what somebody else could be doing with their money, right? Very important. Right. So in other words, I'm not going to be getting the thing right away. What else could I be doing with their money? Well, maybe I could be going on vacation with the money. Maybe I could be buying something I really like. Maybe I could be going out to dinner. What other things could they be enjoying with the money they're going to be giving for you? Now, this is why this is important, because if they're going to forego those things, if I'm going to forego, let's say, a birthday present for my kid or for my wife or for my parents or for somebody, if I'm going to forego that and I'm going to spend this money with you and I'm not going to get something back immediately, why should I do that? Right? You've got to make it really worth my while. And so basically what you've got to do is it can't just be about the product. The product's going to be worth $100. So you're going to give me $100 worth of value. You've got to do better than that. You've got to do better than that. Right? We've got to come back to our roots in information marketing. We've got to come back to our roots in this. How can you, and so you've got to start asking the question. You've got to start thinking of this part as you would an information product. In other words, how can we increase the value so it's more than what they're funding you for? So in other words, they're going to fund you for $100. How can you make what they get back? How can you make your offer worth $1,000 to them in terms of value? This is very important. Now, again, most crowd-funded projects do not do that, right? And if you don't think that's true, go through KickStarter. Right? And see if you can find that. See if you can find the number of projects that people offer more than the value of what they're getting. And I'll tell you why they don't do this in a minute. But as an information marketer, you want to be able to intuitively do this extremely well. That is to craft an offer and not just a product. Not just they're going to get the product in 3 months when it's ready. Right? Something cool, something with bonuses. Right? So in other words, how can you stack relevant bonuses so that it is impossible to say no to the offer? Right? Impossible. Right? Now, this is a case where you and I need to be thinking about bonuses. We are at an advantage as information marketers because, again, we know how to do bonuses. Right? Now, according to Jay Abraham and Kevin Harrington, and I hope that you have time to go through the resources that I've given to you. This is the part that many people get wrong about crowdfunding. You have to think of the person you're asking funding for in terms of investor, right? So in other words, what do investors want? What would investors say without hesitation? They'd be attracted to something where they get more than they expected, and they're getting it earlier. They're getting their money back earlier, and they're getting it back more than they ever expected they're going to get, right? So how can you then take that same concept and apply it to your offer? Right? How can you take that and create something that's going to be 10 times the value of what they're getting when you give them the crowdfunded offer? Now, I'm going to tell you the downside to that people will say. Well, they're going to say, well, then we really don't have a sense whether people not would really buy it or not. Not necessarily true. What we've got to do is we've got to figure out if people want the product, right? We've got to figure out if people want it, but we've got to create an offer to get the funding. Right? We've got to figure out an offer to get the funding. Now, Jonathan is asking, he's saying, can we do PLR products? Maybe we can. It depends on what the offer is, right? It depends on what we're trying to get people to fund. It depends on what we are trying to get people to buy or what we are trying to get people to give us access to. Right. Maybe we can, right? If we can restructure them in a way that it gives people 10 times the value. So here's where we're going to part company and we're going to do something a little different, right? So how do you get awesome bonuses, right? So how do you add that 10 times the value, right? We're going to develop these partnerships, right? This is the case where you're going to have joint ventures and partnerships in the crowdfunding process. Now, again, I'm not talking about giving up equity in your company. I'm not talking about getting a loan or getting people to loan you money so you can buy stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. Basically, what can you add to your package from a partner without having a competitor? So in other words, who can you work with, right? That's going to be your partner and not your competitor. Who's a non-competing partner? And here's how I want you to think about this. Right now, again, not the exact example, but here's the framework to think about it. Think about a dentist, right? And think about how a dentist works with an orthodontist. And they don't compete with each other, but they can be partners with each other on projects, right? Think of an oral surgeon, right? They can partner with the orthodontist and the dentist without being in competition with them. And so basically, what you're trying to do is you got to think about an offer, what you can offer one of these partners in the pre-funding process. What can you give them, right? In order for them to give you access to something that you can use as a bonus. Again, you are working with your partners. Think about something that you can offer a partner post-funding, right? And again, information marketers have an advantage in this case because we understand the affiliate and the JV model. Right? Because you understand these models, all you've got to really do is you've got to be able to think creatively about how you can form the kind of partnership where somebody is going to offer you something to make part of your package in exchange for something they're going to get later on down the line. Right? Again, we're trying to create an offer in the crowdfunding process that's going to be 10 times the value. And this is really why you and I, if we're going to do this, we really got to almost start 6 months ahead of time. Well, we got to start well ahead of time in order to deliver this because you need time to put these things together. So a crowdfunding project can be exciting. A crowdfunding project can put you on a different trajectory. But you and I, we have to think about it in terms of a longer term, bigger scale project, regardless of what it is. And if we start ahead of time, and we think out our concept, we're going to be able to put something together that's going to be something fantastic, and we're going to have a lot of people involved. And again, we're going to be able to bring something to the marketplace that's not currently there.